Standard 3D PT. I did a previous video, and I'll include the card above, about Point E, which is an artificial intelligence system that will let you draw three-dimensional objects with text. And it's part of a family of AI systems, and the most recent popular one is ChatGPT. So I'm actually going to explore how ChatGPT could be used for teachers. Now, I should point out a few things. First off, ChatGPT is literally less than a month old at this point. Um, and so a lot of districts haven't even had a chance to even look at it. Really talk to your IT team and to your district administrator and legal about using the system at all. It can be useful, I think, for a lot of students, especially those with writing issues or output issues. And there's a lot of good things I think come of this. But on the other side, already there's been allegations in different magazines and online sites about students having this write papers for them or have other things basically do the students' work for them. And the scary thing is, this probably will defy and go around any cheat checking system you have in your district. So any of those programs that you're paying for, like Turnitin, that looks for Wikipedia copies, basically. This is unfortunately probably just going to bypass and blow through all that. I did a test yesterday, and pretty much if you want to, if you're worried about security and students' honesty in using this, the way it works is it scrapes information from not only Google and Wikipedia, but from multiple other sites as well. And the strength of it is it does go through and scrape information from multiple sources, and then what it produces, unfortunately, is unique enough that it could probably bypass any of those cheat check systems that your school district has. So this is going to be a huge issue that you'll have to address up front, is how your students are going to use it. Are you going to let your students use it, and how would you know what to look for? So with ChatGPT, first thing you'll have to do is actually set up an account. Now, they don't have a class account, so it's an individual account, and you will have to enter in a cell phone number. So when you do this, you'll have to think very carefully about your student privacy and other security considerations. Also, this OpenAI and ChatGPT is open source. It is not considered secure. So you should never have students' names, students' private info, or PII, personal identifying information on it at any time. Also, this is something where teachers cannot monitor it directly unless you do it through another monitoring system in your computer lab. And the legalities of doing this in terms of how they source the material and what your district will allow is right now really up in the air. Along with the whole OpenAI system, there's been a lot of questions about the ethics of using this because it sources from so many copyrighted works and so many private works. Also at issue is the fact that your students are not thinking for themselves with this. They're just figuring out how to prompt the AI to write what it wants, which is actually going to be a skill in the future, especially as the system advances more and more. However, it does take away I think it does take away some of that individuality and ability to kind of think for themselves. This is both a good and bad thing because for some people, they just can't get a complete idea out, or they can't express themselves in a way that's fluent and congruent for themselves. So something like this where they could type in a few sentences or a line for what they're thinking and seeing it fleshed out um, is a very good starter for them. And I think in the future, English teachers are going to love this because it's like, here's a story starter. How do you write it? How could how does the AI write it? How do you compare against them? So there's potential right there for a lot of English things, English teachers, to use this as an augment to creative writing lessons, grammar lessons, or other literacy tasks. And I'll show you some more things that you can do with this, but I'll keep going. Right now, I'm using ChatGPT through the direct interface on the website. Now, this has an API that lets you plug it into your website or other functions and access it that way. I'm not going to do the API one, I'm just going to stay in screen. Now, you have a couple options on how to use it. Now, you notice I'm in dark mode right now. Over here on the left, there's light mode. I'm kind of on the fence between dark and light mode. I know a lot of people love dark mode, especially when they're doing this for hours at a time. And when you use this, you type in your question here in this text box. Now, if you ever do not like the response, or if it's something inaccurate, you can flag it up or down here. And this is actually how this works. It's like if I click on the down, it asks me for additional feedback. And you could say specifically like what the issue is, or if you tripped one of the guardrails inadvertently, you could say it's harmful and safe, or it's not true or not helpful. And this actually will help. This is part of the reason why it's not quite secure, because if you provide this, you might provide some personal information or experience, or it may not be, or if you're trying to say it's not helpful, you'll have to explain why and hope that the AI can understand and complete that idea. Also, if something's been ambiguous and gives you that long list, you can provide a more direct answer here. On the other hand, if there's an answer that's great, you could do that here. Now, this also would be a great opportunity for STEM students to discuss ethics, what artificial intelligence is, and what the potentials are for it. Because already there's people that are trying to jump on board saying this could be a viable business model where you write copy or um, use scripts or other kind of more mundane writing task very quickly. And there's entrepreneurs right now trying to sell you ideas on how to use this to get on Fiverr or any of those freelance sites and basically chug out video scripts and ad copy and website design. Now, ChatGPT is a text-based system, and so it won't do three-dimensional objects like Pointy or art design like Art AI, which is incredibly popular for doing Facebook profile pictures and other social media pictures. And I'll probably do a video on more on Pointy and Art AI later. But for now, I want to cover how ChatGPT can be used by teachers. So you could ask ChatGPT how it works. And when you do this, you're actually, in a way, dialoguing directly with the AI system. So it understands what it means when it's asking you as the AI the question. And the AI basically understands that it's talking about itself in this circumstance. Now, one of the guardrails that seem to be put on is it is very tactful and very polite. I asked if it could be sarcastic or rude. It said no. And I haven't seen a situation where someone's really gotten it to flip and say anything bad. Again, no promises on that. But like here where I asked it how it works, um, it's a language model that's been trained to process human and generate human text. It analyzes patterns in a large data set of text and using this information to make predictions. So when you get to this, make sure you emphasize that this is based on basically the fact that it could read through tons and tons of literature. And from there, it's able to deduce all the patterns for the language. So in that way, it's still very much a computer, in the fact that it just looks for rules and patterns and data that it could follow and make predictions on. So for a STEM or math class, this would be a fascinating thing to look at in terms of the networking and neural networks, as well as probability and statistics. And later on, I'll actually show you how to write questions based on this. The other thing that chat does is when it appears that it's being treated as a person or anthropomorphized, it's a hard word to say, it does seem to have another guardrail that says to always remind you that you're talking to an AI system. And this is a safety mechanism as well as kind of a reminder of what you're working with. I could see students, if they weren't reminded, starting to treat this as more of a digital companion. And so this is definitely a good guardrail that ChatGPT has in place. If you want to have a discussion with your students about what it can and can't do, or how it works and how it could be similar to things like deep fakes or anything like that, this would be a good place to bring it up because you're talking to a computer system. You're talking to a program that compiles data and is able to interpret and notice patterns and return what you put in back. So yes, the adage of junk in, junk out still applies. But also understanding that you're always talking to a computer, not a person in this. And from the beginning, always emphasize that this can be wrong. And your students could probably test the systems and find out, oh, I could get it to give me the wrong answer based on this, or I hit a logic hole, or I hit something where I got the ChatGPT to give me a wrong answer or an incorrect or inappropriate answer. Now, it does sound like ChatGPT has done extensive work to put a lot of guardrails in place. That being said, not every situation can be considered, and it could be possible for something inappropriate to come out. Watch your students on that, because even I tried testing the ChatGPT yesterday. I didn't get it to say anything inappropriate intentionally, but I wasn't trying very hard. So your students, this would have to be part of your students' policy in that you're not trying to intentionally harm anyone with this or get it to do anything rude or inappropriate. It would be interesting seeing how students will use this and play with it. That being said, it's also how long until a student figures out that it can get it to say something wrong. Having written more than a few thousand myself, these are things that administrators want, and I doubt they even read them over after they get them at the beginning of the week. Um, most of the schools I've been at, new teachers are required to submit either a biweekly or weekly plan. But let's face it, that half the time feels like a waste of paper. So teachers could probably submit these lesson plans to administrators. And this lesson plan here, I asked it to write one about 7th grade chemistry. Took 2 minutes. So I'll give another example. Write lesson plan 8th grade biology, DNA. So 2 minutes of my lesson plan is, I want to say, about 90% fleshed out here. This alone is amazing because this has most of the content that you would want to submit to your administrator for your lesson plan, and it provides guidance for how to set up the lesson plan. Now, I will say that a lot of this stuff is pretty common and pretty boilerplate for that kind of content area. There's no specific examples of like, go to this site for a DNA lesson plan or a DNA interactive. It's broad enough that you could submit it. Your administrator probably won't notice. And you could easily fill in the blanks and flesh this out for what content you put into it and what specifically you could do in your lab. But for just an outline and a broad lesson plan that you could submit to administration, this is it right here. On a lark, I just said include the Colorado State education standards. Colorado State science education standards. And lo and behold, it includes this little sentence here with the standards on them. So yes, you can make your administrator happy and cover your bureaucrat behind by having it include the state standards along with your lesson plan. So this right here just saved every teacher half an hour worth of work just trying to find the stupid standard that matches the lesson they're trying to teach. Because before, you'd have to pull up the PDF that has all the state standards, try and at least BS your way through which standard would actually count under that content area and slap it in. But if you have it search for it right here, along with your outline for your lesson, this again only took about 2 minutes to produce. But it covers your objectives, your materials, mentions using your textbook so again your district's happy, covers the state standards so your administrator and district is happy, and gives you at least a rough start of how to write your lesson plan. So what normally when I wrote a lesson plan for a day or a week, it would take me about 2 hours. And that's going through everything, that's fleshing out the lesson, figuring out the lab or whatever to go with it, and then writing it up and writing it up for the administration so they could at least say they got it. 2 minutes to cover about 90% of a lesson plan right here. So for test, this is going to be a powerful part where you can write tests for your class very quickly, and also um, just save yourself a lot of time and brain power at the end of the day. That being said, always, always, always check the test before it goes out. Never just administer it blind. And always, if you always plan to use this, use it from the start of the lesson all the way through to the end. Because if you change the style in students or change the type of questions, then that's going to create a lot of issues. So use this for a pre-test, post-test. Um, have a quick way to put this into your learning management system, LMS, because right now you can't directly export this, but you can easily copy and paste it and put it into any LMS system, teacher paid teachers, anything like that directly. Now, test format wise, multiple choice, true false, matching, fill in blank, short answer, essay, and performance task. Performance task would be great for like lab stations or STEM stations. You could do multiple choice matching, true false, fill in blank, short answer, and you could also have it generate the answer key. Oh, what are the best way to write prompts for this? Now, this is a language model, so the better and more concise your language is, the better. This could be a difficult thing for some students, especially ELL second language students, or for times when you're not sure what your topic or prompt should be. So definitely be specific, define what you wanted to discuss, and include context or background information. This part I found is actually going to be more important, is that you do have to provide some context or background for the AI system to really get a better focus of what you want. It is totally possible to get uh, wrong answers if your prompt is not specific enough, or if you're just trying to shoot around and play around, might not get a very focused response. Now, the second one is going to probably be one of the more difficult parts for this, in that you have to use grammar and punctuation. Unfortunately, the more correct grammar and punctuation you have in this, the easier the AI can understand it. It does seem to have a good grasp of common typos and misspellings, but it's not perfect. And I've hit a couple issues where it's asked me to clarify. Grammar can help, but if you've noticed, I've actually written a lot of my prompts without question marks and punctuation. But I could see easily where if you don't have commas or periods to kind of end your thought, that might create too much of a run-on for the AI to understand. Avoid ambiguity. So this is good for looking at a lot of academic things and more technical things. Trying to get weird ideas or more philosophical ideas, you're going to not get very concise or clear answers. And when it does that, it tends to, the ChatGPT, when it hits that kind of circumstance where it's too ambiguous, it tends to drop big long lists on you like this. And so if your answer has like 5 or 10 possible responses, it's too ambiguous for it to be focused. And so it just tries to give you the best list possible of what it has. Keep it simple. This applies in pretty much all of engineering and STEM. and keep straightforward language when writing prompts. And again, this just helps give a focused start from the beginning to give a more concise answer. Be concise, keep your prompts concise and to the point, as this will help language models process and respond more effectively. This by far is probably one of the bigger things is if your students like to use run-on sentences or rant and rave or try and do something like uh, a Reddit response or anything like that, um, that's going to cause a lot of ambiguity and issues with the AI. So what do I think about ChatGPT for educators? I think it's going to be an amazing tool. You could do a lot of amazing things in terms of drafting your lesson plans, drafting tests and assessments. You could use this as a quick search tool in class. So if you ever have students ask you a question you're not sure of, you could just hook this into an API or your LMS and have it answer questions quickly. You could have students do writing prompts with this, where either chat writes the prompt or gives you an example. You could write worksheets and assessments with this very quickly and then incorporate it into your learning system. So you could have students write or do work from home, or if they're in ISS school suspension, they could do that. And there's lots of potential here for the teachers just to make some more bureaucratic things a lot quicker or to save brain power on writing a lot of content. Now, kind of the downsides, this still isn't a perfect model by any means. Um, there are multiple ways you could either not give it enough information or get errors from this. So you'll still have to review everything that ChatGPT puts out. Should students use this? Yes. Should students use it? Maybe. And you're going to have to watch out for students using ChatGPT to write things like essays or reports in the future, because this can probably get through a lot of cheat checking systems. Also in class, you're going to have to think about how you're going to use this. Really discuss that with your administrator and district legal before you even open this. Um, Actually, I should. So if you like what you see, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to play around with this more over the holidays, as well as see what I can do with Point E and generate three-dimensional models with text prompts just like this. Thank you.